This is probably one of the weirdest bands I'll ever come to talk about in this video series. Black Flag's vocalist Henry Rollins loved them. The Spongebob Squarepants universe was inspired by one of their albums, and they're also one of the only bands that I've heard of that feature a demon god as their logo. This is a brief introduction to Ween. Ween is an alternative rock band that was founded in New Hope, Pennsylvania in 1984 by childhood friends Aaron Freeman and Mickey Melchiando. After meeting in a middle school typing class, the two immediately started creating music together. Now, although I defined the band as an alternative rock band, their discography varies a lot in genre from one album to another, even from one song to another in some cases. They play everything from funk, soul, gospel, and prog to tropical, heavy metal, and punk. You never really know what to expect when you're sitting down to listen to these guys. From 84 to 89, the band spent much of their time recording material to cassettes and then self-releasing them to friends and local music lovers of New Hope. But it wasn't until 88 that they started playing gigs regularly at their local New Hope pub, John and Peter's, and the nightclub City Gardens in Trenton, New Jersey. Here, they warmed up for bands like They Might Be Giants, War, Butthole Surfers, and Henry Rollins. It was also here that they got a warm commentary from Rollins himself. Quote, "Out of nowhere, out of total musical vacuum, comes one ray of light, and it's fucking Ween." End quote. In 1990, the band released their debut album, God, Ween, Satan, The Oneness. It featured 26 tracks and was sort of a best-of collection of all the tracks they'd recorded during their previous years. A year later, they released The Pod. This album solidified their style of using pitch-shifting guitars and vocals and drug-infused humor in their lyricism. They also sounded quite lo-fi since the whole album was recorded on a 4-track cassette recorder. 1992 marked the year when Ween signed to the major label company Elektra. They released their third full-length album, Pure Guava, which featured Push the Little Daisies, a song that gained them a lot of media attention and high chart rankings. Chocolate and Cheese was released in 94 and saw the band switching from a lo-fi sound to a hi-fi sound. They also started experimenting with 70s pop, rock, and soul elements as showcased in the song Freedom of 76. During this period, they did a lot of different things. They appeared on Conan O'Brien, they did a collab with the Japanese noise rock band, The Boredoms, and took a 180 turn in terms of their sound when they created their next album, 12 Golden Country Greats. As you can tell by the title, the album is a country record, and is today reckoned as the only Ween record that's inspired by one genre all the way through. Now, by this point in the mid-90s, Ween had already started to build a solid reputation, and they'd gained a cult following. These guys even warmed up for the Foo Fighters during some of their shows. Dave Grohl himself once said, quote, "I would give my left leg to write a song as pretty as Freedom of 76, end quote. A short while later, they released their 6th studio album, The Mollusk, in 97. Freeman would describe the album as, quote, "our dark acid rock record," end quote. Many fans see this as one of their most colorful albums, featuring sea shanties, Broadway show tunes, and also the utter weirdness that is typical of Ween. Many of the songs from the album follow the theme of sea creatures, a theme that made such a huge impact on director and animator Steven Hillenburg that he decided to make an animated kids series about it. He even contacted the band personally to tell them how much they had inspired him. The band even made a song called Loop the Loop, specifically for use in the series. Their song, Ocean Man, was featured in the first SpongeBob movie from 2005 and eventually became a meme of its own and made the band a lot more famous. Now, from what I've heard, there's a lot of references to Ween's lyrics in the early episodes of Spongebob Squarepants. In one episode, and I can't remember the exact name of the episode or the number, but one of the phrases goes like this: "Mind your wandering eye, you little mollusk." And in the song by Ween that is actually called The Mollusk, one of the phrases goes like this: "The mollusk lingers with its wandering eye." So you can probably see the similarity there, right? Now, White Pepper is Ween's 7th full-length album. It featured a more pop-oriented sound, and it's said to have been inspired by Paul McCartney and John Lennon. It still has a lot of experimental tendencies and doesn't seem to settle for any specific sound though. But that shouldn't exactly be a surprise to you by now. I think the only thing that glues their sound together and makes them somewhat cohesive on this album, and in general, is their consistent randomness and their sense of humor. Their following album, Quebec, was released in 2003 and gives off a more negative tone compared to much of their previous work. According to Freeman, many of the songs were written as he was going through a divorce. Quote, "I wrote most of these songs right before the end of the relationship. A lot of these songs are about that. Even if it's not direct, you can feel the beginning of the end of the breakup in these songs." End quote. In February of 2006, Ween rented an old farmhouse and converted it into a studio. This is where the Friends EP and their last full-length album, La Cucaracha, came to life in 2007. By the end of these recordings, both Freeman and Melchiondo felt as if Ween was done once and for all. Now, Ween was not only a band that made great sounding music and comedic lyrics. They also came up with interesting themes and mythologies. The best example being that they claimed to be sprouted from the demon god Boognish, which is depicted in the band's logo. You can find references to this demon in several of their songs. Now, to conclude this video, I want to say that Ween is one of those bands that really does it all. They inspired one of the best children's series of all time, Spongebob Squarepants, made some incredibly unpredictable yet catchy music, and made Henry Rollins a proud fan. If I was to recommend some of their albums, I would say that you should check out White Pepper and The Mollusk. They're probably two of the most accessible of their records, and they're actually two of my favorites. So yeah, that's it. I really hope you enjoyed them just as much as I did. Thank you so much for watching. During the first hour after the publishing of this video, I'll be going live on Instagram, Twitch, and Discord. So if you want to request your favorite rock band or artist for future videos, that's the best place to get in touch with me. So just hit the links in the description below if you want to join. See ya.